Swithland Wood is an area of woodland that falls within Charnwood Forest in northwest Leicestershire, bounded by Leicester, Loughborough and Colville. Charnwood Forest is an important recreational area with woodland walks well known for their displays of bluebells in the early spring. Popular places with public access include the Outwoods, Bardon Hill, Beacon Hill, Bradgate Park and Swithland Wood. Living and working in Derbyshire, I know the county very well. However, I know very little of Derbyshire's neighbouring counties. So today I thought I'd start with Leicestershire. I know the northern fringes of Leicestershire because it borders onto South Derbyshire, but that's about all of Leicestershire I really know. So I wanted to explore a little bit more of the county today. So I thought that Charnwood Forest would be a great place to start. I continued walking through Swithland Wood, a pretty and atmospheric area of ancient woodland, covering 155 acres and rich in history and wildlife. Designated as a site of special scientific interest, the wood is an important habitat for a wide range of plant and animal species. Leaving Swithland Wood, I headed on towards Bradgate Park. Well, I think that could be my next port of call. Bradgate Park is a public park in Charnwood Forest. Covering nearly 850 acres, the park lies between the villages of Newtown Linford, Anstey, Cropston, Woodhouse Eaves and Swithland. The River Lynn runs through the park, flowing into Cropston Reservoir, which was constructed on part of the park. Bradgate Park was a hunting park in the 13th century. It was then acquired by the Beaumont family, passing to the De Quincey family and on to William de Ferrers of Groby. It remained in the de Ferrers family until 1445, when it passed to the Grey family after William's only surviving daughter married Edward Grey. The Grey family retained it for the next 500 years, and in the 19th century was open to the public several days a week. In 1928, it was bought by Charles Benyon and given, as a plaque in the park describes, to be preserved in its natural state for the quiet enjoyment of the people of Leicestershire. I soon headed up towards the Folly on the Hill I had seen earlier. This prominent landmark is known as Old John, on the top of the highest hill in Bradgate Park. Built by the Greys in 1784, the Folly is, by local legend, a memorial to John, an estate worker killed in a bonfire accident during celebrations of the 21st birthday of the future 8th Earl of Stamford. The tower was used during the 19th century as a viewing point for the horse racing practice circuit laid out by the 7th Earl. Well, that's Old John Tower. Let's see what's next on the walk. A short walk from Old John is the War Memorial, which stands on an area of consecrated holy ground, and commemorates the men of the Leicestershire Yeomanry who died in the Boer War and the 2 World Wars. Every year a memorial service is held in Newtown Linford Church, followed by a wreath-laying ceremony at the memorial on the Sunday morning nearest to the anniversary of the Battle of Fresenberg in France of May 1915, in which the yeomanry suffered huge losses. The views from here were wonderful. I could see right across Bradgate Park to the surrounding Leicestershire countryside and the city of Leicester. This is my very first visit to Bradgate Park, and I have to say I'm really impressed. It's quite a big place, so I've got a lot more to see, but first I'm going to carry on following this track because it's leading to a village, so I'm going to explore that place before I continue looking around more of the park. If you look very, very closely, you might just be able to see some deer. At the bottom of my descent, I exited Bradgate Park as I arrived in the village of Newtown Linford. The village's name originates from the relocation of people when the Ferrers family turned Bradgate into a deer park. The people who lived within the estate were moved to the new town, or hamlet as it would have been then. The villagers were all tenants of the Ferrers family, and later the Grey family. There are 2 pubs in the village, the Bradgate and the Linford, and various restaurants. There are 3 cafes, the Jade Tea Rooms, the Post Office Cafe, and the Marion Cafe, which was named after Marion Richardson, who used to live there. The post office itself was closed in 2008, but remains a newsagent as well as a cafe. There are a few shops, but the garden centre, which used to dominate the centre of the village, closed in 2004 and has been built on for housing. All of the properties in the village belonged to the Gray estate until 1925, when it was sold off. The River Lynn runs through the village before flowing through Bradgate Park. After my exploration of Newtown Linford, I re-entered Bradgate Park to walk along the main tarmac drive beside the river. I just got talking to a really nice lady who was standing by the main gates at the entrance to the park. She's a member of staff. Well, it was a bit of a clue actually, because her shirt said Bradgate Park staff. Anyway, when she was talking to me, she asked me if I'd seen any deer. And I did say, well, when I was walking down from Old John Tower earlier, I could see some in the distance, but they're a little bit too far away for me to see them clearly. But I told her where I'm going to be walking now through the park, and she's given me some really helpful advice as to where I might see some again. So, where I'm going now, I'm really hoping that I might get a closer look at some deer. Bradgate was enclosed as a deer park around 800 years ago. It is now the only remaining enclosed medieval deer park in the East Midlands, which still retains much of its original form. Bradgate Park's red and fallow deer are some of the finest herds of parkland deer in the country. The average number of deer kept at Bradgate is around 400, about 3/4 of which are fallow deer. I soon came to the 16th century ruins of Bradgate House. This is one of the first great unfortified houses in England, and one of the earliest since Roman times to be built using bricks. It is believed that the house was the birthplace of Lady Jane Grey, and was lived in by the Grey family for about 220 years. As well as considerable remains of walls and fireplaces, it has 4 truncated towers, and the chapel is still intact, containing a tomb effigy to Henry Grey, the first Earl of Stamford, and his wife. Just beyond the house, I managed to see some of Bradgate Park's residents. Here we are. I daren't get any closer because it might frighten them away, but at least I can see some deer quite close by. Passing the visitor centre and tea shop, I reached Cropston Reservoir. It was constructed in the southeast corner of the park in 1871, submerging the headkeeper's house and a substantial area of former parkland. The water level was raised 2 feet in 1887 to increase capacity, and the original steam-powered beam engines ran until 1956. A number of pools were also constructed along the course of the River Lynn through the park to allow silt to settle before reaching the reservoir. I eventually exited Bradgate Park as I found myself approaching Swithland Wood again. Well, I'm just approaching Swithland Wood again, where I started today's walk. But just before I leave, there's one more place I have to visit. So I just wanted to finish my day with a walk here on Beacon Hill. Beacon Hill near Loughborough was the site of a Bronze Age hill fort and is a popular country park. The park consists of over 330 acres of grassland and woodland and offers recreational walking and some short climbs. With a maximum height of 814 feet, it is the second highest point in Leicestershire after Bardon Hill. Loughborough is seen below Beacon Hill, as is Bow Manor Hall. You can also hear and see steam trains on the Great Central Railway, which has stations at Loughborough, Quorn and Woodhouse. On a clear day, Belvoir Castle can be seen, as well as the hills in the Peak District. Derby, Nottingham and the Tower of Lincoln Cathedral can be seen with a pair of binoculars. Beacon Hill was featured on the 2005 TV programme 7 Natural Wonders as one of the wonders of the Midlands. It is indeed a very pleasant spot for me to finish my day's walk here in Charnwood Forest.